are you ready?
Oh, born for this.
Okay, good.
Let's go.
I don't have a chainsaw for you. That's the only thing I couldn't get on the stage. You know, Elon Musk came in with the present.
And as a Green Beret, I left the belt-fed machine gun at home.
There you
Thank
go.
God, the Secret
there you
Service
go.
Secret Service.
But you know,
okay.
maybe next time. If you'd like.
Yeah,
but how are y'all doing this morning? Okay. So how amazing was it yesterday? Seriously. I don't know how we can top it off, but we're going to top it off this morning with just one of our heroes right now in the Trump administration, someone who CPAC, someone that Matt and I admire so much, our National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz. So let's jump right in. Obviously, you've just come back from Saudi Arabia. You were meeting with Russian officials on really looking to find a solution to end the war in Ukraine between Russia and Ukraine. Tell me first how those negotiations are going. Any insight that you can give to our CPAC family here in terms of progress that's being made?
Well, let me make one thing clear. We would not be in this position, not even close, if it weren't for the leadership of Donald J. Trump. Period. Right? I had the honor of sitting in the Oval Office and listening to President Trump speak with President Putin of Russia and hearing both Putin and then immediately Zelensky both say only under President Trump's leadership, say this to him, and only he could drive an end to this war. So under Trump, this war will end. And it will end soon, and he is the president of peace. And it amazes me how many people in this town are clutching their pearls and having conniption fits over what? Because President Trump's ready to stop the killing, stop the hundreds of thousands of people that are dying per year in Europe, the largest war in Europe since World War II. And you see the same voices that are demanding a ceasefire in Gaza post-October 7th, then what, oppose peace in Europe? It makes no sense. But with his leadership, we've now opened negotiations. We're sitting down with our host, the Saudis, and talking to the Russians, understanding what they are going to need, and then understanding what the Ukrainians are going to need, talking to all of the Europeans. You can't end a war if you don't talk to both sides, and that's what we're doing.
Thank you.
It's kind of common sense,
it
history of diplomacy.
It is common sense, but you do find those in the media and the critics basically saying, how can you all be talking to the Russians? This is insane, right? They criticize the efforts that the administration is doing. And with that being said, President Trump has expressed his frustration with President Zelensky, trying to get to the point that we're dealing with how can we get a deal on the raw minerals? How do we, the United States has given over $175 billion to the Ukrainians. It seems like the Americans, there is that war fatigue. It's time to move forward. How are we going to get President Zelensky, to cooperate?
Yeah. Well, so first, and this is the part that the media just wants to ignore, it was Zelensky last September, as part of his victory plan, it was Zelensky that proposed, hey, let's go into a partnership together.
Right.
If the United States will invest in us, we have aluminum, we have gallium, we have tritium, we have all of these rare earth minerals that the modern economy needs. A lot of them are not fully developed. They need investment. President Trump's a deal maker. And so now President Trump proposes the deal,
right,
and sent our Treasury Secretary all the way out to Kyiv to propose it, and then we get this rhetoric in the media. Well, look, here's the bottom line. President Zelensky is going to sign that deal. And you will see that in the very short term. And that is good for Ukraine. What better could you have for Ukraine than to be in an economic partnership with the United States, number one? What better could you have for Ukraine to stop the killing, number two? And you know what? We have an obligation to you all, the American taxpayer, to recoup the hundreds of billions of dollars that have been invested in this war. Because you know what? You know what Europe's contributions are? Europe's contributions are in the form of loans. And they're often paid back on the interest, by the interest on Russian assets that have been frozen. So Europe gets paid back, but the American people don't? I don't think so, right? And so that's the deal that we're putting in place that's good for everyone. And yes, you have to talk to the Russian side to understand how we're going to get both sides to the table. And that's what we're doing. Look, this is the common sense presidency. This is the presidency of peace. He's going to end the war in Europe. He is going to end the wars in the Middle East. He is going to reinvest the United States and our leadership in our own hemisphere, from the Arctic to the border to Panama, all the way down to our good friends in Argentina with Milei that you saw yesterday. And you know what? By the end of this all, we're going to have the Nobel Peace Prize sitting next to the name of Donald J. Trump. And who opposes peace? Like, I mean, how do the Democrats oppose peace?
You bring up a great question, which is who opposes peace? Yet you've seen the European leaders under President Macron trying to bring the Europeans together in dealing with the Russian and Ukraine situation. They have been unable to move the ball forward. How are we going to bring our European leaders on board?
Well, President, you know, and all the other narrative you have in the media is, well, we're not consulting with our allies in Europe. President Trump has talked to Macron twice last week. He's coming here Monday. The Prime Minister of Britain is coming here next Thursday. We are engaging all of our European allies, absolutely. The NATO Secretary General and I just spoke. You establish peace through strength. And we have been demanding that the Europeans step up and contribute to their own defense. And as of now, a third of our NATO allies still are not contributing the minimum, which is 2% of their GDP that they committed to a year ago, or I'm sorry, 10 years ago. So that's unacceptable. And if, you know what, the Europeans want to take a bigger role in their own security, that falls in line with America First principles as far as I'm concerned, as far as President Trump's concerned. So, you know what, he's kind of rattled their cage a bit. And now they're saying, you know what, suddenly they found more. And they're coming to the table with more. Fine by us. We've only been asking for over a decade now.
Shifting gears here to Iran. We've got Ambassador Mike Waltz with us, basically one of the biggest fighters in terms of ensuring that we can see change in Iran and leading the efforts incredibly here in the United States and across the globe. But I've got to ask you right now, what is this maximum pressure campaign going to look like in terms of Iran? How are we going to stop Iran from terrorism into Israel and killing innocent lives?
Well, first, thank God that Prime Minister Netanyahu, that Bibi did not listen to the Biden team and did not listen to Kamala Harris. And as a result of his leadership and Israel's leadership, Hezbollah in Iran is now decimated. I mean, the pager, beeper, and walkie-talkie operation is going to go down in history. And as a Green Beret, I appreciate a good covert operation. That was one of the greatest ones in history. So you have Hezbollah largely decapitated. You have a real opening in Lebanon that you haven't had in a generation. You have Assad gone in Syria. You have the axis of terror from Iran all the way to threaten our partners, Israel, essentially disrupted, and we need to keep our foot on their neck in that regard. And then from a maximum pressure campaign, the president just signed that executive order returning to maximum pressure to start keeping a foot on the neck of the Iranian economy. And look, just a few years ago, we were seeing that all of Iran's proxies were out of cash, that the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, the militias in Iraq, none of them had the funds and the cash to continue their terror. We're going to get back to those policies that work. But key to it all is that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon.
No.
And why does that matter to everyday Americans? Look, if Iran has a nuke, there is a real question of whether they're a rational actor. And they can take out our ally Israel. They can launch against the world. They will have that nuclear umbrella to launch these all of these other attacks. They cannot have a nuclear weapon, and under President Trump's leadership, we will ensure that does not happen.
Israel. We just got word from the Israeli Defense Forces that they have returned several bodies. This is the Bibas family, the two beautiful children, the redhead children, and what was supposed to be the body of Shara, the mother. Apparently, that doesn't seem to be the case. IDF is saying this is a serious violation of the ceasefire. What's your message, one, to the hostages, their families, from the United States, from President Trump? And two, how can we ensure that we bring all those hostages back home?
My message, President Trump's message to those families is we are with you. His heart breaks and he is horrified by these scenes coming out. And if anyone thinks that Hamas is some type of quasi-benevolent, not so bad, kind of something less than the just despicable terrorists that they are, what more convincing do you need? Hamas is of the worst kinds of terrorist groups out there. They are no different than ISIS. They are no different than Al-Qaeda, and they absolutely must be destroyed. And only under his leadership, remember the Biden administration was trying to do some type of deal. They were obsessed with a ceasefire, but their approach was concession after concession after concession and putting more pressure on Israel than they did on Hamas. Only when President Trump came in and said, look, there will be all hell to pay, the credible threat that only he can deliver, did we see this deal come into place, still under Biden. And we saw our people starting to come out, including 2 Americans, with more to go. So this is only happening because of this election. These are the kind of consequences this election has had. And we will continue to get out everyone that we can. But remember, just 6 months ago, 8 months ago, you had college campuses, you had students, you had faculty, you had protesters celebrating Hamas, talking about from the river to the sea, having the worst kind of anti-Semitism, and now we've seen, and we just saw yesterday, the despicable people that they are and why they can never be allowed to run Gaza and why we can never allow another October 7th again. And there is a lot of talk about two-state. You know who doesn't want a two-state? Who will never allow a two-state? Hamas. And this is why they can never, they just cannot exist going forward.
China is one of our biggest threats. We have seen how China has infiltrated our institutions, has brought fentanyl into the United States, has stolen our intellectual property, have basically made so many deals with many Latin American countries, African countries. They're trying to be strategic in ensuring that the U.S. does not get involved in some of these regions. This has significantly changed under President Trump. Walk us through how we're going to deal with this threat of China.
Well, remember, President Trump is who pivoted us, pivoted the whole national security apparatus back in 2017 and 2018 to deal with the threat and the competition that China is. But he firmly believes we can win this economically, we can win this through our supply chains, we can win this through our markets and fair trade deals, and at the same time rebuilding our great military under, how about our Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, right? Getting them focused on being the most lethal and most badass military in the world and projecting that strength. But at the same time, he appreciates the infiltration that's going on, and we just had Panama say, you know what, we're done with Belt and Road. We're done with allowing China to infiltrate critical strategic assets like the Panama Canal. And again, it's only been a month, folks. We've still got it. We told the president, you said, you have a full 4 years. We don't have to get it all done in 4 weeks. And just final thing, because you mentioned fentanyl. We are going to unleash holy hell on the cartels. Enough is enough. We are securing our border. And the cartels are on notice. You've seen images of the Mexican army doing joint patrols with our Customs and Border Police and with our military to secure the United States border, because without a border, you don't have a country and you don't have sovereignty. And if there's not anything more than America first than that. And so a lot of, going back to things that worked in the first term. But you know what we have now in the second term? We have a team that is 200% on board with the vision of President Trump. And we've got a great Secretary of State, a great Secretary of Defense, Secretary of Treasury. We've got the Team Florida with Susie Wiles and our Chief of Staff. Like, we are hitting on all cylinders, and we don't have a president that's year 1 or even year 5. He's year 9. And we are building the rocket as we're launching it, and it's just been the honor of my lifetime to be a part of it.
So I was going to ask you who can bench press more, Secretary Hegseth or Mike Waltz, but I'm going to skip that question. We're just going to go a little personal here.
Yeah.
You wake up every morning. You have one of the most important jobs in the administration.
I'm working for a man who doesn't sleep, but
That's
yes,
true,
I
so that means you're not sleeping either.
Yeah.
What drives you? What inspires you to do what you do every day?
You know what? It really is. It's been about 20 hours a day. And he's going 21 or 22. I don't know how he does it. I thought I was in 4th gear as a member of Congress and a colonel in a Green Beret. I've now found 3 more, and he stays in 10th. But here's what drives me. These guys. I don't know if you can see this bracelet. This is one of my Green Berets that I lost in combat. And every morning I get up, I look in the mirror, we get ready to go, and I tell myself to be worthy. Be worthy of their sacrifice. Be worthy of those Gold Star families. Be a citizen that is worthy of this blessing that we all wake up with, breathing free air in the greatest country on earth. But we got a glimpse the last 4 years of what the world and what the country would look like under progressive lack of leadership. The world got a glimpse of what the world coming unglued, starting with the disgraceful withdrawal from Afghanistan and how that was done, through the wars in Europe. We went from the Abraham Accords to the Middle East on fire, and out of control border. I think, and the president is thinking about this a lot as well. Of course, he wanted that second term. But you know what? Maybe God had a different plan, that the world had to see and feel what it would look like in the country without him. And now you're seeing this amazing embrace of his leadership in the world. But be worthy, everyone. Be worthy of those that are out there right now willing to die for all of us, and those that did give the greatest sacrifice for all of us. And thank God we have a leader back in the White House that not only appreciates that, loves them, and loves all of you, and is willing to run through brick walls to get big things done for this country and for peace and security around the world.
Well, be worthy. I'm taking that with me. Be worthy to do this incredible work. I just want to thank you, and I know on behalf of all of us here at CPAC, we thank you for your service. We thank you for your sacrifice. We thank you for supporting and giving advice to this great president and in serving in this administration. Ladies and gentlemen, our National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz. Thank you so much.
Thank you, CPAC.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.